The big challenge in reading this book is whether the word is pronounced Aion or Aion or Aion. 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 I'm going to try to say Aion from now on. I'm reading today from Aion, Researches into the Phenomenology of the Self by Dr. C.G. Jung, Chapter 4, The Self, paragraph 57. The first case we mentioned, where the collective idea is represented in a dream by a lowly aspect of itself, is certainly the more frequent. The goddess appears as a black cat and the deity as the lapis exilis, stone of no worth. Interpretation, then, demands a knowledge of certain things which have less to do with zoology and mineralogy than with the existence of a historical consensus omnium in regard to the object in question. These mythological aspects are always present, even though in a given case they may be unconscious. If, for instance, one doesn't happen to recall, when considering whether to paint the garden gate green or white, the symbolic aspect of the green is nevertheless present as an unconscious sous-entendu. So we find something which has the highest significance for the life of the unconscious, standing lowest on the scale of conscious values, and vice versa. The figure of the shadow already belongs to the realm of bodiless phantoms, not to speak of anima and animus, which do not seem to appear at all except as projections upon our fellow human beings. As for the self, it is completely outside the personal sphere and appears, if at all, only as a religious mythologem, and its symbols range from the highest to the lowest. Anyone who identifies with the daylight half of his psychic life will therefore declare the dreams of the night to be null and void, notwithstanding that the night is as long as the day, and that all consciousness is manifestly founded on unconsciousness, is rooted in it, and every night is extinguished in it. What is more, psychopathology knows with tolerable certainty what the unconscious can do to the conscious, and for this reason devotes to the unconscious an attention that often seems incomprehensible to the layman. We know, for instance, that what is small by day is big at night, and the other way round. Thus, we also know that besides the small by day, there always looms the big by night, even when it is invisible. Paragraph 58. This knowledge is an essential prerequisite for an integration. That is to say, a content can only be integrated when its double aspect has become conscious and when it is grasped not merely intellectually, but understood according to its feeling value. Intellect and feeling, however, are difficult to put into one harness. They conflict with one another by definition. Whoever identifies with an intellectual standpoint will occasionally find his feeling confronting him, like an enemy in the guise of the anima. Conversely, an intellectual animus will make violent attacks on the feeling standpoint. Therefore, anyone who wants to achieve the difficult feat of realizing something not only intellectually, but also according to its feeling value, must, for better or worse, come to grips with the anima-animus problem in order to open the way for a higher union, a conjunctio oppositorum. This is an indispensable prerequisite for wholeness. Paragraph 59. Although wholeness seems at first sight to be nothing but an abstract idea, like anima and animus, it is nevertheless empirical insofar as it is anticipated by the psyche in the form of spontaneous or autonomous symbols. These are the quaternity or mandala symbols, which occur not only in the dreams of modern people who have never heard of them, but are widely disseminated in the historical records of many peoples and many epochs. Their significance as symbols of unity and totality is amply confirmed by history as well as by empirical psychology. What at first looks like an abstract idea stands in reality for something that exists and can be experienced, that demonstrates its a priori presence spontaneously. Wholeness is thus an objective factor that confronts the subject independently of him, like anima or animus, and just as the latter have a higher position in the hierarchy than the shadow, so wholeness lays claim to a position and a value superior to those of the syzygy. The syzygy seems to represent at least a substantial portion of it, if not actually two halves of the totality formed by the royal brother-sister pair, and hence the tension of opposites from which the divine child is born is the symbol of unity. And hence the tension of opposites from which the divine child is born as the symbol of unity. Footnote: Dr. Jung refers to his article, Psychology of the Child Archetype, and also to Psychology and Alchemy. Paragraph 60. Unity and totality stand at the highest point on the scale of objective values because their symbols can no longer be distinguished from the imago Dei. Hence, all statements about the God image apply also to the empirical symbols of totality. Experience shows that individual mandalas are symbols of order, and that they occur in patients principally during times of psychic disorientation or reorientation. As magic circles, they bind and subdue the lawless powers belonging to the world of darkness, and depict or create an order that transforms the chaos into a cosmos. Footnote: Psychology and Alchemy, Part 2, Chapter 3. The mandala at first comes into the conscious mind as an unimpressive point or dot, and a great deal of hard and painstaking work, as well as the integration of many projections, are generally required before the full range of the symbol can be anything but completely understood. If this insight were purely intellectual, it could be achieved without much difficulty, for the worldwide pronouncements about the God within us and above us, about Christ and the corpus mysticum, the personal and the superpersonal Atman, etc., are all formulations that can be easily mastered by the philosophic intellect. This is the common source of the illusion that one is then in possession of the thing itself. But actually, one has acquired nothing more than its name, despite the age-old prejudice that the name magically represents the thing and that it is sufficient to pronounce the name in order to posit the thing's existence. In the course of the millennia, the reasoning mind has been given every opportunity to see through the futility of this conceit, though that has done nothing to prevent the intellectual mastery of a thing from being accepted at its face value. It is precisely our experiences in psychology which demonstrate as plainly as could be wished that the intellectual grasp of a psychological fact produces no more than a concept of it, and that a concept is no more than a name, flatus vocus. These intellectual counters can be bandied about easily enough. They pass lightly from hand to hand, for they have no weight or substance. They sound full, but are hollow. And though purporting to designate a heavy task and obligation, they commit us to nothing. The intellect is undeniably useful in its own field, but is a great cheat and illusionist outside of it whenever it tries to manipulate values.